Network. From his Central Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines, the information war continues. It's Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome, my friends. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. It is Sunday, the 5th day of September, 2010. We're going to be live here for the next 2 hours, simulcasting the syndicated radio broadcast in full living video color at prisonplanet.tv. Today, I am going to open a first salvo in an investigation of the neocons and the Republican Party, who are set to be swept back into the House and probably the Senate in November of this year, in only 2 months. We're also going to look at the falling fortunes of the Democrats, who have shown themselves to be cohorts with the globalists yet again in their attempt to collectivize this nation. Now, about 2 weeks ago, I started getting calls and seeing reviews saying that Glenn Beck's new New York Times best-selling book, The Overton Window, was important for me to read, and I've now had a chance to read it. And Glenn Beck is even more dangerous than I had first thought. This is extremely sophisticated and is the equivalent of O'Brien, the inter-party torture master, in 1984, telling Winston Smith, one of the inter-party propagandists, giving him a book revealing the entire program of enslavement and dehumanization, and then arresting Winston and torturing him for reading the book that they gave him. This is a revelation of the method, and I'm going to be covering that later in this hour. Now, it integrates into Machete. Robert Rodriguez's new film, #2 at the box office this weekend, opened on Friday. And it was even worse than what the initial script stated. It is that script, word for word and more. Robert Rodriguez is a liar. He lied and said the Arizona trailer for the movie 3 months ago had nothing to do with the film, wasn't in the film. That's not true. He said that they'd cut the race war stuff. No, they even added more. And it deals with how the globalists are controlling our society by manipulating both sides in the false debate. News Corp, that owns Fox News, produced this movie and has released it. On the other end, they've got Glenn Beck. This is how they control the system. They control both ends of the spectrum. And Glenn Beck in his book goes as far as to admit that. This is mind control so sophisticated that it even staggers my mind. I study this 24/7 and I understand it. It's hard to articulate, though. The most sophisticated propaganda, PR minds in the world have developed this system, and Beck admits it all. Carol-Quigley, Bernays, Goebbels. When you've studied propaganda, it's horrifying to watch it unfold. The Democratic and Republican parties work for the exact same groups. And it's the globalists playing different populations off against each other and divide and conquer. But divide and conquer is just a term. It goes so much further than just that. So this is going to be a very important broadcast. I'm going to hit on a bunch of other news first, and then also get into Machete. And then we will get into Beck. Because the Republicans are going to take power. And if you hold your breath and look for things to really change, you're going to asphyxiate. You're going to be smothered, asphyxiated. Thank you for joining us, my friends. It is Sunday, the 5th day of September, 2010. We're going to go over the latest economic news, world news, police state news. Google is being investigated for antitrust by the state of Texas for reportedly manipulating their search function towards their sponsors, which the state of Texas claims is a violation of the Antitrust Act. Well, of course they manipulate their search functions. They routinely, when one of our stories is the top search, delete it and admit that they're deleting it and block entire articles we write at prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. Of course Google is doing this. There's also a new campaign out with television ads pointing out the fact that Google is a CIA, NSA front. They now admit that, violating your 4th and 5th Amendment, spying on everything. So we're going to be discussing that as well today. The cynical term, don't be evil, is a joke. Their slogan, their maxim of don't be evil is a stinking joke. I'm not going to really talk about Machete anymore after today. The reason I've discussed it is I was contacted. It's the #2 film at the box office right now. I was contacted 3 months ago by Hispanic members of Texas filmmaker Robert Rodriguez's crew, who said they were afraid it would reflect badly on Hispanic Americans. I was then sent the script because I went on television and the radio, and I said, this Arizona trailer says we have a message to Arizona, and then it shows Hispanic gunmen shooting Texas politicians at the Texas Capitol, shot in front of the Texas Capitol with state of Texas funding. Then Rodriguez and others came out and said, this is ridiculous, none of that's in the movie. So then I got the actual script from one of our Hollywood sources. And Rodriguez's ex-wife, who's also the producer on the film, she came out in the Austin American-Statesman, UPI, Reuters, literally hundreds of publications in the last 2 weeks and said that Mr. Jones does not have the script, and it's not true, and he's just saying he has it, and none of what he says is in the movie is in it. Well, I took 6 of the crew Friday night to see it, and it is the exact script. It was, had the name of his agent on it. I got it from a Hollywood source who I know, and it was confirmed. I also got it from other anonymous sources, so I got it from multiple sources. But I got it from a source I know in Hollywood, and I went to the movie, and it was word for word the script. So Robert Rodriguez and his ex-wife have played everybody for fools because they don't want the 18% of the budget. That's what Texas is going to pay him. Rick Perry, we have the video clip, called it a few months ago the model of the Texas Film Commission program. The governor, Rick Perry. Now, there's a state law that the films can't get these incentives if it, quote, puts Texas in a bad light. Let me see. The movie opens and the script opens. And the film's now out there. Anybody can go see it. I don't recommend you do. It's one of the worst movies production-wise I've ever seen. I know that's the style, but, I mean, I felt dirty when I left. I mean, like my brain had been hacked on with a machete. And the film opens with Don Johnson playing the part of the Minutemen. Now, the Minutemen have never killed anybody. The Minutemen have never killed any Hispanic children. It's actually the Mexican Coyotes. Last week they killed 72 people, many times including children, mainly Central and South American immigrants that come in. If they don't have extra money at the Texas border, they're murdered. They're tortured. Their heads are chopped off with machetes. And Rodriguez knows that. This is a whole drug culture, radical Mexican supremacist culture dealing with these machetes. And so a week and a half ago, 72 men, women, and children had their heads chopped off in Mexico, 80 miles from the Texas border, not by Minutemen, but by the Mexican cartels that are in complete control of many of the regional governments. The news admitted it was Los Zetas, quote, former Mexican military. It's kind of like former CIA. No such animal. The movie opens with a group of about 25 illegals dumped out near the border. Texans pull up in cowboy hats, so if you wear a cowboy hat, you're evil. And the Mexicans get on their knees. They blow the heads off of Mexican children, one after the other, while a state senator, wearing the cowboy hat and the suit, basically looks like Rick Perry, makes a pregnant Mexican illegal get on her knees, and she says, I'm pregnant. And they go, good, we want to kill your little evil, stinking, and they use racial terms, baby. And they shoot her in the guts, blowing the baby out onto the ground. And then they go, oh, my gosh, this is wonderful. We've killed another one of their babies. Now, in World War I, the British ran propaganda ads in newspapers showing Germans bayoneting babies. It wasn't true. With a dead baby on the end of a bayonet. In history class, just basic college history, I was taught about this being the most base form of propaganda. And the entire movie is Mexican children being murdered. The entire movie is Catholic priests being crucified by white people screaming racist things. This couldn't, you couldn't have a film that puts Texas in a worse light. And anybody who doesn't want a wide open border with crime pouring across it, with Mexico in full collapse, with our country going bankrupt, Bloomberg reporting 46 states on the verge of bankruptcy or already bankrupt. If you want any border control, you want to murder pregnant women. The worst thing you can do, societally. None of it's true. And it shows the coyotes as good guys in the movie, part of a secret network. And let me tell you something. My old office was down off of Mary Street and First Street, where the real network is based in Austin, with the coyotes, with the law firms that help the illegals. Vicente Fox came to Texas 5 years ago and gave the state of Texas, Austin Police Department, and Wells Fargo an award for violating federal and state law and for not arresting illegals who don't have IDs. Illegals are above the law. So there is a network of this, and it's the coyotes, it's the money launderers, it's the banks. That was also in Reuters and Bloomberg last week, where major banks have pled guilty to actually financing the coyotes and the drug lords. But in this movie, there's a secret network that's basically going to overthrow Texas and, quote, resettle the Southwest. So it's La Reconquista, reconquer. And Fox News had a headline, the La Reconquista is on. I searched the term machete last night and saw a Fox News piece about a TV piece they did called actually the La Reconquista is here. Guys, Google that for me under news. I want to show it to folks who are watching our radio show, simulcast at prisonplanet.tv. But what Fox didn't tell you in the piece is News Corp is putting this movie out. So, of course, Rick Perry's going to pay for 18% of the budget with taxpayer money. Now, here's the deal. I want to live in peace with everybody. I want to get along with everyone. I want to live in peace. But the big mega corporations that control and run this nation, they want to divide and conquer our country. And we have the North American Union documents. We have the SPP documents. Judicial Watch sued 3 years ago and got them, where they've had meetings in Canada, in Banff, and in Waco, with the corporate leaders behind closed doors, setting up the end of borders. There's the Fox News article, the La Reconquista is here. And they want to break down the borders, drive down the wages, and use the illegal alien voting bloc as a political weapon. And both parties are involved. So, Robert Rodriguez is a liar. We did have the real script. The Arizona trailer is the film and more. And they even call it Helter Skelter, which means race war. Charlie Manson quotes in the film. This is pure evil.